So the discussion around the league the last couple of days has been whether or not a restart is the right idea at this time, right now. What sense have you gotten as to where your players stand on that and that time frame?
Obviously, we're going through a very important time to enact change, and so I understand all the players' perspectives. You know, Coach D'Antoni and I have spoken to the players. We recently had several Zoom calls. I think each player needs to figure out how to make the biggest impact on the very important things that are happening in the country. I think Austin Rivers said what he said, and that he felt the players, you know, the resources and having the world tuned into them and being able to make statements from the restart in his mind was the right way to go. But I think each player needs to think about what's best for them, and we hopefully that involves basketball.
Daryl, organizationally, I know we've always been talking about the NBA restart, and it feels like a continuation of the season. Is that how the Rockets are looking at this, as a continuation of a season, or more of something fresh and new?
I mean, it's a continuation. Obviously, we start with a good record, as Jenna nicely mentioned. But it is basically a second training camp. Our team had the most changes of pretty much of any playoff team with the trade at the deadline to get Covington. And so we're really looking forward to basically a second training camp, getting our defense tighter. That's the area we need to improve if we're going to give ourselves a real chance on the restart.
Daryl, I got a bunch of questions about maybe your favorite player ever, James Harden. I'll start with this one. I think that James. Oh, my second favorite. Maybe he's my favorite. Who knows? I've never disclosed who my favorite player is. I don't know what you're talking about. Listen, I think a lot of the discussion surrounding James's playoff performance has been overwrought and I think statistically inaccurate. I do think, though, with the offensive workload he's carried in Houston and a guy who almost never misses games, it is reasonable to ask if by game 85, 90, 95, if he is a little worn down. Because you now have this break and he's all of a sudden svelte. It looks like he lost weight. I don't even know if he wanted to, but he did lose weight. Is there, in your opinion, do you think you're going to see maybe a slightly different James Harden this postseason than we've seen in the past?
Obviously, having Russell Westbrook, a big change as well. He's someone who's so dynamic and can create offense and with the floor space as well. So I would say, you know, all else equal. I mean, the teams are the teams, but I do think a restart, favors us in a bunch of ways. We have the most veteran team in the league. A second training camp, like I mentioned, will help us. I think more than most teams. And then, I think everyone on the Rockets, myself, Coach D'Antoni, James, Russell, Eric Gore, I mean, all the way down the roster, we've all gotten to that stage in our career where there's really one thing left, and we're all focused on it.
So you made a comment last week, Daryl, that you feel like you've let James Harden down by not finding the right players to help him win a title, and then the comment took off and everyone started talking about it. It picked up steam. So now heading into the restart, there are a number of options for different restarts. The one that's currently planned on right now, the amount of rest your whole team has, and the amount of people that you have surrounding, the type of players you have surrounding James Harden. Are you confident this is the best team surrounding him as you get ready to restart this season?
Well, we love the team. I do think, the 65-win team is actually one of the best teams not to win. Obviously, we didn't win it. That was a very good team. This team, I think, has every good a chance as that team. And, the best way to win a title is to have a great team and be in it every year. We've done that. What I meant talking about James was he is going to go down as one of the greatest players of all time for sure. And it's my job to help him. So the fact that we haven't won always does weigh on me.
So when we talk about the style of play of the Rockets, Daryl, and James is number 1 in isolation and Russell's number 2, I think Damian Lillard's number 3. Is there an idea that, hey, if it doesn't work this year, let's take a new page out of the Sloan playbook and try something else? Or are you guys still all in on isolation and small ball regardless?
Make it sound so negative, Kevin. Our offense is one of the best of all time. I would say, when you have one of the best offenses of all time, no matter how we do it, and improving defense, I would think if we can't get our defense better, that's going to be a big focus, how to improve that. But we have a great team. Obviously, Golden State not in our way. So when you have a team as close as us, you're going to want to keep it together and continue to make changes like we have the past year. Adding Covington, playing with more spacing, adding obviously a MVP level guy with Russell Westbrook.
Daryl, you said something a few months ago, shortly after Russ got to the team, that I thought was really interesting, which is almost the different personalities of Russ and James, which is Russ was more of not that he wasn't working hand in hand with you, but he was out ready to play. He wants to go play. And what you said about James was that James, I don't want to call him your assistant in the front office, but you and him talk basketball, you talk strategy, you talk about concepts. And I thought it was really interesting, and we didn't have time to get into it further. I think it's a part of James Harden the audience would like to know about. What did you mean by that, and what is that collaboration like?
Yeah, with James, he's a basketball genius. I talk to him constantly about basketball, about players who are potentially available. He sees things that I don't see. Hopefully I see a few things he doesn't see, and it's a partnership. And I think James and Russell also have a partnership. James, as you can tell on the floor, he's a thinker. He's obviously a dynamic player and athlete, but he gets to a lot of his things through, subtle shifts in, how he positions himself, how he works with screens. Whereas, Russell's this amazing leader, sort of vocal guy, plays with a passion and a chip. They're just a good partnership, I think, going into this restart.
Daryl, you talked about how you've come close every year. You got to be close to put yourself in a position to win. You're sitting outside in what looks like a well-manicured, beautiful man cave. You got birds all around you. Everything you say sounds so peaceful and lovely.
I do have birds.
So comfortable for me. You got a lot of birds, I'm not going to lie. Despite all of that, how much pressure are you feeling that you guys come back into the restart with the record you have? James Harden lost a ton of weight. Everyone wants to see what he can do. Is there pressure on you guys with a shortened rest of the season now to win it all?
It's basketball pressure. I think we've seen real pressure in the world right now. And, thankfully looks like some real material changes are being made and everyone's looking at themselves. But basketball pressure wise, yeah, it's a lot. Again, two of the greatest players ever on our team. We should win this thing.
Daryl, I dug deep down into the Sloan archives looking for home court advantage papers, and I found one about the referees. Have you done any research on home court advantage and how that will statistically affect the flow of the game, or what are your thoughts on a neutral court?
Yeah, our players are used to playing on neutral courts. That happens actually quite a bit over their lifetime. But in terms of home court, yeah, referees are demonstrably a big part of home court advantage. That will go away. Obviously, there's no crowd. It changes how seeding works. So, we ended up in the 6 only like a game or something out of 4 or something like that. I forget exactly the details, but the seeds the seeds aren't going to matter as much. It's just going to be your path to the final. And but yeah, it's it's going to be a little bit like the Lakers Clippers turnover where they change the rafters and then the next game starts.
Daryl, we got less than a minute left. I just want to ask one Russell Westbrook question, piggybacking off Wilds. Some players, it seems, feed off the energy of the crowd. Russ, I feel like, brings that energy with him everywhere, no matter the gym, if it's empty or not. Is that what you see as well? And do you think, we got about 40 seconds here, that helps you guys in the restart?
Yeah, James talks about Russell as this never-ending, like he's never seen him tired, ever. And James obviously has played with him many years, both in OKC and now here. Somehow Russell has captured some Marvel Universe energy source that no one else seems to have, and he brings it at all times.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.